Hey everyone, I'm here with John Irwin, CEO of CNS Occupational Medicine. We're going to talk about how it's got started, some of the fun growing pains, the interesting stories over the years, pandemic, and so much more. And John, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I know, on the health side, we did drug testing, consortium management. That was always a nationwide piece that we've done. But moving closer to today, obviously the big thing that happened, the pandemic, COVID hit. It's one of those moments where, what's going to happen with the company, or how can we take advantage of this crazy time that we're in? Obviously the trucking industry, we know, sort of had a boom a couple of years, but for services, I think that's basically the starting point for our CNS Occ Med team. Talk about that.
Absolutely. One of the things, obviously, I have my CDO, as we said before, and I would go to a provider. My appointment was at 10 o'clock. They did urgent care and things like that. So I'd get there. I would get there 10 minutes early to fill out the paperwork, think I'm helping out. And I would sit there for an hour and said to myself, there's gotta be a better way.
Yeah.
And started talking to providers and talking just in general that, there needs to be more emphasis on getting drivers out, because a lot of these urgent cares don't know that drivers have hours of service rules. If they do, they don't care.
Yeah.
And we started dabbling in that. Had a provider that would come out on site, they would be contracted through us, and we would have people come in and get them out on a timely basis. And we've always done drug testing, since I've taken over and provided those services. And we had options for mobile units, and we were thinking about getting a mobile unit. Man, pandemic happened, right? And what does everybody do in the pandemic? They're thinking, the sky is falling.
Right.
Competitors are laying people off. That's how I got you.
Exactly.
I know we'll probably touch on that. But I sat around with our executive team at that time, and I said, listen, I don't want to lay people off that don't deserve it. That's one of my biggest things in my life and being a CEO is, sometimes you're gonna have bad seeds. They're gonna have to go, right? You just have to run your company.
Yep.
But I was so because I seen all the news, people laying people off, and people in the industry saying you gotta get ahead of this, and that's just not what I want to do. So I, sat around with the executive team and said, what can we do to keep people working? Granted, now it was a scary time, and people were afraid to come to work. And if they came to me and said, hey, I'd rather just be laid off until I'm comfortable, we did that. That was fine with me because they requested that.
Right.
But in our executive meeting, we're talking and we're like, well, and this might be funny. It's kind of funny now where it was like temperature screenings, that's going to get COVID out of the industry. And we only knew what we knew at that point in time.
Yeah.
So we went to the local community and said, hey, we can provide temperature screenings for you. So these are warehouses, essential businesses that wanted to keep, that had to keep working, but also needed to do some mitigation, risk mitigation. And we went with the temperature screenings, and we had locations that did it for, 24 hours. We had staff on there.
Man.
So we actually grew our staff at that time.
Right.
And honestly, insurance, everyone needs insurance. So that was an essential business, and that kept. We were a little worried, is there people going to go out of business? But what happened with the trucking industry at that time? It boomed.
Took off, yeah.
It took off. And I remember sitting with Chris Keel on business development, and we were like, well, do we stop marketing? Do we go? And he was very adamant on just, keeping marketing going. I went along with that, and we grew significantly in that period because our competitors pulled back. Like I said, I've known you through LinkedIn,
right.
And I knew your boss through some industry. And when I saw that you were let go, I was like, this could be an opportunity. Me and Chris talked about it, and now here you are.
Yep.
And it was a great decision by me. I'm going to say that by me to bring you on board. but we kept going.
Yeah.
And in business, you're going to have times when it just doesn't look good. And believe me, I didn't get a lot of sleep for a couple months there because I'm worried about payroll. I'm worried about everything when it comes to, to our employees. And I have a lot of responsibility on my shoulders. And for you out there that watching that have trucking companies, you probably know this, or if you want to go into that, you're going to have those times and you have to rise above them, and you got to keep being creative and keep thinking on the next opportunity and how to better position your business. And so we did. Once temperature screening stopped falling off, it came into COVID testing. All right, so we hired a whole bunch of contractors and employees at that time to do temperature screening. Well, that was starting to fall off. Well, what can we do? COVID testing, right? So we did that, and thousands and thousands of tests. Then what comes? Well, vaccines. Whether you like the vaccines or not, I'm not here to debate the vaccine stuff, but that was the opportunity for the medical world.
Yeah.
And in the medical world, there was people that really wanted the vaccines. And in our county has some great hospital systems, and it was covered. County next to us, not so much, and they needed help. Well, we had the mobile option. We had all the staff. We had providers. So let's go and do the vaccine. Pennsylvania, actually, they got in themselves a little trouble where getting the second doses out was a problem.
Yep.
And they realized they had too many providers at the time. And what they had to do was slim that down from 1,000 providers, I think, to like 120, 130 or somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And we had so much support from the local community because we did things differently. And you'll notice in our business, we always do things differently, and we try to do it better, and with that customer forward facing and customer service. And we had that mobile option where they stayed in their car, nurses came up to them, gave the shots, they waited there for 15 minutes and went. We had so many local clientele that went through that. And we kind of said, hey, we need your support for us to keep getting vaccines and keep vaccinating people who want to be vaccinated. We need your support and trying to be one of those providers. And I was blown away with how much support we got. People writing in that I wrote to the local senator, or I wrote to the health department, I wrote to the governor, where the Pennsylvania Health Department did select us. And I remember talking to him and said, you have a lot of support, and we see that you're able to handle a large volume.
Yeah.
And we got the vaccines. Continued with the vaccines. We opened the mass vaccine site in Lebanon County and worked with Lebanon County, which was great, to get all their people that wanted the vaccines to be able to provide them. And it was funny because we kind of used a different model than all of our competitors. And it goes back, and we can laugh about it now, it goes back to the restaurant days where we sat them all in lines, and the nurses brought bus carts, medical bus carts up to them and did the vaccine while they were sitting there. Then they moved on to the next row. And
They
it
had
was
to wait to see if there's any issue.
any issues, no issues. They got at the 15 mark, they got to go out, and the next people came in, and it was, we were doing over 1,000 a day in an old Kmart, and it worked. It worked. We didn't have to have millions of dollars behind it. We didn't do that. We did a good budget where it didn't cost the county or the taxpayer a lot of money. And the feds paid for the vaccines, so it was great. It was a great win for them, and great win for us to keep our employees paid. They got paid. It's not like you made millions of dollars off of that. I want to make sure that people know that is they got paid and kept us in business, and really started our occupational health because now we are very known with these companies.
And man, you guys, behind the scenes, I don't know if you guys have PTSD of that time, but everything from when the vaccines came in, the age time frame to before you can get vaccines, and the phone calls coming in every single day. When can I get it? hey, can this person do it? Can this person not? Absolutely, just ringing off the hook. And I mean, I remember those days, and it was incredible getting through that.
Absolutely.
And then occupational medicine today, I mean, we have locations in Delaware now, the mobile units taken off, lots of different services just with occupational health, OSHA rules and regulations. So again, on that compliance side, it's amazing and awesome to see where that's going. I'm excited to see where the future is. Now, a lot of these changes, we're very heavy into regulations. Trucking industry, the DOT, FMCSA, OSHA regulations, and so much more. But so we talked a little bit about COVID and that process, and we open up the services to so many different types of OSHA, occupational health, employee wellness. Talk to me about some of that.
Some of our sister companies are in compliance and regulation and insurance, and it just kind of goes hand in hand with the occupational health. When we were out there doing the COVID temperature checks and all the vaccines for companies kept on saying, well, do you do work injuries, and telling us the pain points of that. And I'm a problem solver, and I got together with some doctors, and now Dr. Aaron Green is our medical director, and Rob Guillory, who's our vice president of occupational medicine. I've really run with the solutions. One of the things is I said there's got to be a better way for treating work injuries, not just through an urgent care where they have to sit there, helping companies do pre-employment physicals on their workers, whether it's construction company, a warehouse guy, right, hazmat issue thing. We just got to set up and just be better than these urgent cares, because honestly, a lot of the hospital systems all went to the urgent care model because they make more money. We are a for-profit business. CNS Occupational Medicine is a for-profit business, but so we want to make money, but we don't need that urgent care. We want to make money by providing that white glove service to these employers and employees, and following through the process. And that means somebody gets injured. We have a nurse case manager that makes sure that employee is getting the care that they need to get back to work quickly.
Right.
We do a lot of these, tour throughs with our providers through the warehouses for them to know what kind of range of motions that they use. Because if there has to be a work restriction put on there, we need to, our providers need to know what they can and cannot do with that injury. So we take that extra step and extra care for these employers because we know putting stuff on their OSHA log, all that costs them money too. We also know that they want their employees to be treated properly and cared for properly to get back to work, so they don't lose downtime. The employee doesn't lose any wages or anything like that. And we really came together with this, what we call white glove service, and making sure that the employer is kept informed, and making sure the employee goes through all the procedures. If it's a little injury, get back to work quickly. If it's a real big injury where they have to go to specialists and whatnot, to make sure that they're getting set up with those specialists, and making sure that they are getting that care that they need and back to work when they can. And
then, of course, that communication side, where it's making sure people the companies know each step of the way, where's the employee at in their health, prognosis, coming back. Obviously we do everything with the OSHA world. You got the respiratory fit tests, and you got, audiograms and so much more, but there's even the management side. So reasonable suspicion testing, and managers need to have training on reasonable suspicion, how to handle that. What are some of those requirements, whether it's reasonable suspicion management or other trainings like that?
Yeah, I mean, whether they are OSHA regulated, FMCSA regulated, pipeline has, there's a lot of different regulations, and with the other sister companies that are in compliance, they know those regulations, and our people know those regulations, and we can tailor training. And right now we're doing a podcast, but we have a great team in the videography department that can tailor videos to, you know, their reasonable suspicion to a company, or they can use an out-of-box solution to make sure that their managers are properly trained in that. You know, when it comes to CPR, you name it, we're going to try to, you know, to check that box for these companies so that they have great information and great knowledge to keep going.
Yeah, and if you want to check out, sort of see what that white glove service looks like, you can check us out on cnsoccmed.com. We have all kinds of great information, articles. You know, we're going to be talking a little bit soon about what's coming up in spring and summer, and what does that transition look like for workplace health, employee wellness. Rules, regulations, they change all the time, so be sure to check us out online as well.